All right. Good morning, Ghana. Good morning, the rest of Africa, and of course, the world. It's a Tuesday, and what a way to welcome you. We're back on your screens. I'm sure you had a wonderful sleep last night, and you are very ready, rejuvenated to get out. My name is Bright. Johnny and Nanama. Anytime you call her, I mean, she's angry. Johnny and Nanama.
I'm not angry. I just correct you because that really isn't my only name. I have a full name.
I'll take it like that.
We will make sure you are friends with Mr. Agbe.
He is actually my friend. But good morning. But I didn't sleep too well because yesterday, unfortunately, a choo-choo driver ran into my car.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, the response. I think overall, what I've come to realize is communication plays a key role in addressing or resolving conflict. Because for me, it wasn't so much about asking, the person to pay, because sometimes you see the state they are in and you realize they can't. But it's the words that proceed out of your mouth when such situations happen, where instead of taking fault and just accepting that maybe I've offended or whichever way it is, but to speak amicably and then resolve the situation. But just because you have the backing of maybe the people in your car or something, you jump on the person and start to, make a lot of noise. I think that really is unfortunate. And it comes down to communication. I think Ghanaians should learn a lot of that, because oftentimes the choo-choos, the taxis, they are the offenders, but they always tend to want to play victim when they've got the support of members in their car. And it has to stop.
It's sad. I mean, sometimes you even realize a private vehicle that crosses a commercial vehicle, a choo-choo or a taxi in a certain way, but because it's a private vehicle and they have people in it, so then they start they start abusing the driver. I think that we need to know when we're wrong to say yes, we're wrong, but
let me give a good morning to the Tesano. I think that's the MTTU police. Well, it was written U. I know it's D, but their boss still has the U.
So when they changed the Flagstaff House one, they didn't change theirs.
Yes, it didn't reach there. But even yesterday, they were having the launch of, one of their offices that Kwame Despite has built for them. So there was a lot of, people around there. I saw quite some dignitaries in that area. But it was a nice place. I saw it firsthand, and I think kudos to him.
Yesterday, I mentioned the bus pipe, right? You remember? Around there, Datu's Montessori area. So I went back there again, and it's been fixed.
Oh,
so
nice.
the Ghana Water Company is listening. I'm happy about that they are listening.
We're getting results.
I hope that it is not because we spoke about this one, but
they
all the other ones,
ones.
so that we are all safe. Because when the water flows, is wasted.
When they fix it, we'll stop
we have
talking.
to pay for it.
Yeah.
And again, they are fixing roads, but this thing of informing people when you're fixing roads so that they know the diversions that could exist. I think Ghanaians play with it, and we just assume that, you should know that once we've started, let's say, Akisiman is going to trickle down to Achimota, and so plan your own escape route as it is. But it's not right. I heard a foreigner ask why this couldn't even be done over the weekends or during the nights when there's less traffic, but you wait up until the morning. And I thought, well, we know politicians, they want you to see them in action. So I guess that is what it is. But we can find alternate ways of resolving these issues as we fix our roads.
I think that in fixing the roads as well, the road at the Datu's Montessori Abubuashi, where the pipe got burst, the sand has been put on, it's been compressed, so what's left is the asphalting. It's been left for like a year or two. It's not been done. Now this water has messed up, created gullies all through the road. So if the man who's supposed to do the asphalting comes, he has to start all over again. And the delay and the pussyfooting and everything. Come on.
Anthony Jackson. Good morning.
Good morning.
Be careful. If you are an onion seller or you...
I was just about to mention it.
He looks like a kebab seller.
If you go around Hajia Fati,
we need a particular...
This guy looks like a kebab seller, right?
No, I'm not a kebab seller.
You don't like that one?
I think probably when it comes to those odd jobs, I'd want to be like a electrician or something.
Then maybe
I want to reach above my height.
You're still going around there, but if you happen to sell anything at the market, onion or tomatoes, anytime you go around Hajjafat, you'll be in trouble.
But me, I like to sell Kobe. Kobe has...
Kobe, she can deal with you because I'm sure she will see a Kobe seller the same as an onion seller.
But if you're selling Kobe, the Kobe scent will...
That's what I was going to say.
Take over.
The aroma will take over.
See, and Kobe has a lot of respect.
What do onion sellers look like?
That was, after you all spoke, I was just thinking about
these days you find these young men on the street who are selling onions. stoutly
suit.
built and strong.
Right.
So I'm wondering how.
And there's even a man who sells MTN credit cards and he's in suit. There's another who sells PK. I think that's on the
Meat pie.
stretch. He's in suit and a tie, and he looks like a businessman. So I'm thinking, what
Maybe
really do onion sellers look like?
I mean, Haja Fati buys onions from somebody, but that's unfortunate. So unfortunate. Those who are justifying it, shame on you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, shame on you.
People
People are justifying it. People
She
are.
could go ahead and bid an onion seller.
I don't know, but shame on you this morning if you are justifying it.
Anthony has the news.
Well, it's time for the news for this morning. Good morning once again. My name is Anthony Jackson. Now, the Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, is considering legal action against Haja Fati for assaulting a journalist on duty. President of the association, Afilmoni, wants the New Patriotic Party to call its member to order by condemning her actions, disassociate itself from it, as well as take punitive action against her. This is not the first time Haja has assaulted a journalist.
The GJA, led by its leadership, legal advisors and the Association of Women in the Media, ASWIM, condemned the serial attacks on journalists. The association regretted the recent attack on Accra-based Adom FM reporter at the NPP headquarters by the well-known party supporter Haja Fati on Friday, May 4.
With many foreign delegates who attended the World Press Freedom Day celebration still in the country on Friday, Haja Fati's attack has no doubt caused the country huge embarrassment. The attack must be condemned in no uncertain terms, considering the collateral damage it may render Ghana's enviable position as first in Africa and 23rd in the world in the rankings of World Press Freedom Index 2018.
The GJA, he said, is saddened by the assault coming at a time the media fraternity was awaiting the report of police investigations into the case of Joy FM reporter Latif Idrisu while covering a demonstration by NDC supporters during the arrest of their Deputy Secretary, Kokwanyi Doho. It is on record, this is not the first time Haja Fati has reportedly attacked journalists.
The MPP must be deeply worried about Haja Fati's impunity and penchant for attacking journalists. It must therefore act swiftly and decisively to bring her to order. Otherwise, her violent conduct may discredit the party and by extension the government. The GJ is considering various options available to it, including legal action to end such impunity against journalists, which we consider to be violent attack on press freedom.
The GJA therefore wants the NPP to call Haja Fati to order by condemning her action as well as apply sanctions against her. The association also wants Parliament to expedite action at passing the Right to Information Bill to deepen press freedom. The assaulted journalist Ohima Sechuwa Hwenepa recounted how she was punched without any provocation.
And then Sami Crab was upstairs. Edia was downstairs, so I followed because I had already introduced myself. I wanted to capture the environment and then add my interview with her. As soon as I took my phone like you're doing, I just smashed the phone, stood up, stand in front of me like you're standing in front of me and punched me on the face, actually on my mouth. I was just standing there because I felt dizzy.
How were you dressed that she said that she thought you were an onion seller?
It was Friday. I was wearing slate and kaba. Well dressed. I don't know how onion sellers dress and I don't know how journalists dress.
I believe that is beside the point. She is a journalist and she was at the function to perform her duty. Even if she was an onion seller, she has rights, just as she has rights. So her rights should be respected and upheld.
Meanwhile, the Association of Women in Media, ASWIM, has vowed to see to it that Ohima Sechuwa gets the justice she deserves.
let us continue to follow the story so that once it has been reported to the police, we have to go back after a while to find out what is happening. If you leave it, it will die. But as Swim says, we will not leave it. We want to press for change and to see that the society operates under the rule of law, where people's rights are upheld all the time.
Attacks on journalists are a dent on the country's credential as a beacon of democracy and a haven of peace in the West African sub-region. The latest report by the Media Foundation for West Africa indicated that Ghana topped the list of cases of physical attacks on journalists in West Africa between January 2017 and April this year. Statistics from the Media Foundation for West Africa show that 12 out of the 45 cases of physical attacks on journalists recorded in the sub-region within the period occurred in Ghana. The incessant attack on journalists is a bad record for the ruling New Patriotic Party government, which hails itself as a champion of democracy.
Now, Parliament will on Tuesday, May 8, hold a stakeholders forum on the Right to Information Bill. Chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Ben Abdallah, underscored the need to consult the public to ensure the bill addresses all concerns before its passage into law.
Tuesday's Stakeholders Conference is to receive oral presentations from civil society organizations, relevant public institutions and experts on the Right to Information Bill. The bill, which was sent to Parliament during the last sitting under a certificate of urgency, was withdrawn and relayed when the House met in an emergency sitting 2 weeks ago. The bill is expected to go through the normal procedure, and the first is to consider memoranda which Parliament had received. Ben Abdallah is chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, and he says the bill, when passed, would afford many access to information.
Information will be available in any public institution and in any private institution which uses public funds, or any private institution which renders public services. So whatever information that you want, whether in your rural area, in your district, you can apply to have that information.
But some information would not be accessible.
There are certain classes of information that must be exempt. For instance, information relating to the security of the state. We can't give it out. Information relating to contravention, possible contravention of the law. We can't give it out. Information relating to international relation between Ghana and, let's say, US. We can't give it out. Information relating to doctor-client, doctor-patient, lawyer-client relationship. We can't give it out. Information relating to your personal record, for instance. We can't give it out.
But information pertaining to good governance, a contract awarded to a contractor, and people wanting to know how much has been paid, the contract sum are expected to be provided. Persons who apply for information and are denied have the right to appeal and can also report to the Information Commission or the High Court.
This bill must see the light of day in the next meeting of Parliament. Even if this bill doesn't crystallize into a law in the next meeting of Parliament, hopefully by the end of the year, this bill should see the light of day.
And now the fiscally challenged woman, Rita Kriba, who was allegedly denied boarding access on an African World Airline, says she would sue the airline for denying her a flight. The incident reportedly happened on Saturday at the Kotoka International Airport.
On Saturday, the 30-year-old Rita Kriba was allegedly discriminated against by staff of Africa World Airlines Limited, AWA, at the Kotoka International Airport when she was reportedly not allowed to board a scheduled flight to Kumasi because the crutches she uses would inconvenience the airline. Rita Kriba is considering legal action against the airline.
I want this discrimination to stop. That's why I've taken it on. It must stop. If I'm a person with disability and I have my money to board a plane to wherever I want to go in my own country, it's my rights. I have to. If only I can pay. There are other people who use the airlines, and on their ticket, there is nothing that says a person with disability can't take their flights.
Meanwhile, Africa World Airline, in a statement, explained its aircraft type has structural limitations for carrying certain categories of wheelchair passengers for safety reasons during emergencies. The statement added Rita Kriba failed to notify her agent on her condition during the reservation for the necessary information to be relayed to the airline as per the International General Rule on the acceptance of persons with reduced mobility.
The Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association has proposed negotiations with government to pay 4 out of 8 years arrears due to wrongful placement and grading on the single spine salary structure. The leadership of GOSPA says it will not accept any move by the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to conduct another round of job re-evaluation if arrears are not paid.
GOSPA claims more than 200 of its members have resigned nationwide for being worse off on the single spine salary structure. It cited wrongful placement and grading, including conversion difference, as having affected their salaries for the past 8 years. Despite a cabinet subcommittee agreeing in 2012 for payment to be effected, the then finance minister failed to comply. Last week, the new CEO of Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Dr. Edward Kwapong, proposed another round of job re-evaluation for the pharmacists. But the leadership of the association has rejected the idea, claiming it had already conducted 3 of the job re-evaluation in previous years.
3 job evaluations? Why?
This time you are not going to do anything.
No, the membership are not in accord. Of course, we are preparing towards a future job evaluation because the single spine will require a review, which is now been discussed. So we would agree and do a job evaluation for that, but not to go back retrospectively to solve the problem of old.
The former chairman of GOSPA, Raymond Tete, rather suggested negotiation with government to pay their 8 years arrears.
And you know, government has solved problems for teachers, for others, and has paid retrospective effects. So what we are saying is that, okay, meet with us. Let's renegotiate and say that, okay, we can't pay you the 4 or 5 years back pay. We'll pay a year, 2, 3 years. That's okay with us.
Immediate past CEO of Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Jasmine Graham, also rejected a new job evaluation for the pharmacists.
How many times do you have to do job re-evaluation? If they themselves agreed, which I'm told they've agreed that they will go into a job re-evaluation, then that's a different matter altogether.
The CEO of the commission, Dr. Edward Kwapong, is to meet leadership of GOSPA to resolve their grievances.
Unemployed trained nurses have given government a 2-week ultimatum to grant them financial clearance to enable them secure permanent employment. The protesting nurses have kicked against the Heal Ghana module under the Nation Builders Corps, which they argue will put health professionals at a disadvantage.
By 9:30 a.m., the trainee nurses from different unions had gathered at the Obra Sport at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle in Accra. The protest was against the government's plans to enroll them onto the Heal Ghana module under the Nation Builders Corps. President Akufo-Addo last week launched the Nation Builders Corps, which is intended to employ 100,000 young graduates to assist in public sector service delivery needs of the country.
The terms and conditions of Heal Ghana are not being favorable. In the first place, the scope of employment and the terms and conditions is unconstitutional with reference to Article 24, Clause 1, which states that every person have the right to work under safety and healthy conditions and to be paid equal salary for equal work done without any distinction of any kind. Now, we are professional trained nurses and other health professionals, which there is no difference between we and those currently in the world working.
President of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwifery Association, Dr. Kweku Asante-Krobia, said the NAPCO package does not commensurate with what the labor union has negotiated on behalf of health workers.
If they have money for NAPCO, I believe they have money to engage my nurses and midwives. If somebody is looking at the whole situation as NAPCO has come to help nurses and midwife graduates, he must think again.
According to the group, 9,905 nurses assistant clinical and nurse assistant preventive of 2015 batch who were promised by a Deputy Health Minister, Tina Mensah, to be cleared by the end of March are yet to know their fate. Representatives of some 554 diploma graduate nurses and midwives of 2015 batch who finished their service in September 2016 are still unemployed. 5,380 private trained nurses and midwives who were verified by the Ministry of Health are equally due for employment. The nurses marched to the Heart Park, where a Deputy Health Minister, Tina Mensah, received a petition on behalf of the Vice President.
I've taken the petition from you. It will be taken to the Vice President accordingly. I believe your concerns will be looked into, and then it will be addressed accordingly.
The nurses expected more than just a promise to deliver their petition to the Vice President.
That was in a camera, okay? At least stand and address what? The populace that are here, that this and this, I've heard all of you. And then we what? Engage you in stakeholder meetings, or your promise, or the 2 weeks ultimatum. This and that is what we are going to do. It is rather unfair.
With 700 Ghana cedis as monthly salary for the 3-year period under NAPCO, the nurses argued they would prefer to stay home till government is ready to provide them with permanent jobs. Kwabna Edu Jenfi, TV3.
Now, the Ghana LPG Operators Association has kicked against the cylinder recirculation module policy, warning government to stop its implementation or face its wrath. At a news conference, members argue the policy cannot prevent gas explosions as anticipated by government, but rather push them out of business.
You alone, you have gone to write something and you ask me to discuss it. And you got a lot of faults in it. When we tell you this is a fault, you say no. When we say this is not correct, you say no. At the ministry, I wanted to speak. The deputy minister told me he will not allow me to speak. Point blank. So, do you want any new views, or do you want correct views?
People think that gas stations are now a threat to public safety. So, don't you think that this would in a way solve this concern?
Never.
Never, as in?
It will never solve any problem. I've told you even of accidents, many of them. 1 year alone. How many came from gas? How many came from gas? Have you stopped the cars from ruining the roads? Have you stopped selling petrol?
There are currently about 601 LPG stations across the country, with direct employment of 3,000 and indirect employment of about 4,000 people, including importers of gas accessories and dispenser mechanics, who, according to the group, risk losing their jobs should the policy be implemented. Consumers, they say, will not see the quantity of gas bought as with the current system. These and many more concerns, according to the association, make the policy needless and bound to fail.
If they know what they are talking about, not as I know more than they know, it's going to destroy our businesses to give job to a white man. That's all. Finish.
But they said that it's going to be a partnership with local industry.
They are deceiving you. Partnership. The mine is already there with the plant ready. On Pong Road, Blue Ocean.
Blue Ocean.
Yeah, it's from Trafigura. They have Blue Ocean, they have Pima.
So you think it's going to monopolize the system?
Of course, that's what they are trying to do, to help him.
Government in October 2017 introduced the cylinder recirculation model following a gas explosion at Atomic Junction in Accra, which claimed 7 lives and injured 132 others. Among other stringent measures to ensure safety in the handling of petroleum products, the NPA was issued a directive to implement the gas recirculation model within a year. The announcement of the model last year was met with strong opposition from the liquefied petroleum gas marketers and the Ghana Liquefied Petroleum Gas Operators Association. There were fears that the new arrangement would lead to job losses and create inconvenience for LPG users. However, the NPA says it has, together with the Ministry of Energy, had a series of engagement with both groups to address concerns and incorporate their feedback into implementing the policy.
There's more New Day after this break. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, and thank you very much for joining us here on TV3 New Day. Front pages of the dailies. Today newspaper says many opportunities abound in Ghana, according to Mrs. Intum, and pastor warns against legalizing homosexuality. Another police reshuffle. We'll share the details with you. And gas explosion injures 3 at Tesano. It happened yesterday. Sad indeed. The BNFT, Baumia's paperless ports under threat as Unipass plans takeover of Customs World, GCNet. Delayed payments killing local banks, as according to Frank Edu, and taxman urges consumers to boycott products without tax stamps. Those are the stories on our front page of the B&FT this morning. The custodian says Ioko chases fake lecturer on the run. And Public Accounts Committee hearings retrieve looted funds. Fast food reduces women's fertility. Really? John Boydu receives royal blessing, and MPs meet on RTI bill today. When will it be passed? I'm sure many of you will be asking. The Finder newspaper says President launches $100 million endowment fund to enhance research abilities of University of Ghana, Legon, and give back to society to support nation building, Osei Kwame, despite appeals to business moguls. GJA to sue Hajia Fati for allegedly assaulting journalists, and oil price hit $70 for first time since 2014. 11-year-old son boiled over missing 1 Ghana cedis. The Daily Heritage says Afenyo Marking fires Amnesty International over alleged blatant human rights abuses at UEW. Baumia, Ghana High Commission host Indian business delegation, and don't apply funds for NABCO. Brekuso Hini urges government officials. And yes, so we're wrapping up with the Daily Statement. It says the PPP Youth Coordinator commends Akufo-Addo for NABCO. The NDC 2020 presidential candidature, Kwesi Botwe joins race. Really? President launches University of Ghana Endowment Fund. So those are the details on our front page this morning. Well, I'm told we need to pick the Ghana Palava. And Yidoho jabs government for politicizing civil service. And Professor Ahoy writes to Akufo-Addo over so-called doubled salary payments. Fear grips NPP over Mahama 2020 declaration. And local governors and Akufo-Addo is dead. Former Ashanti Regional Minister. And Odikro wants to know. What does he want to know? Buy a copy and find out. These are the details on the front pages. Interesting, isn't it? Where do we start from? Gas explosion, Kwesi Botwe.
Well, I think the child who was, who had boiling water thrown at him is very unfortunate. And I think we have to educate parents more on that. The fact that, yes, we all get angry, we all get upset with things our siblings, our children may have done. But every time, remember the repercussions of what you do. Because you see, for 1 CD, you've poured water, but you're going to spend more money in getting this child nursed back to health. And you're going to waste resources, your time, your energy, that could have been channeled elsewhere. So in as much as, yes, you get upset, as parents, always find an alternate route rather than just reacting harshly, because you may actually cause a disability which you can't have restored. So mothers, especially because they have come into contact with children more often, as Mother's Day approaches, let's try and to have this discussion of having a better way to handle our children under these circumstances.
I've not been to the labor ward before, but you have been in and out of that place.
But I'm sure you've heard the screams from a distance.
Yes, but you have had to supervise people in that. I wonder how somebody would go through several times. Well, of course, wage catcher. So I wonder how somebody would you know, have a gestation period for 9 months, sometimes 10 months and more, deliver a baby, go through labor pains, and still want to maltreat a child. Unless the child is on you, even that, there's a certain emotional attachment that you get having lived with somebody for some time. So I don't get it when people do that. 1 cedi, you remember the kid who was sent home for 2 cedi school fees and a taxi knocked him down and he's paralyzed for life. I don't know what's happened to that teacher, but children are important. We keep saying that children are the future. And if this is what we want to do to the future, I don't
know. I think I think the state must take up the issue. I mean, if it's indeed the case as being reported, I don't think that such things should be left to the family to resolve it. Right. I think we've gone past a situation where a child is maltreated and we leave it to the family to meet and talk about it. I think the state should take charge, and whoever is involved must face
but right,
the full
in the state taking charge, you
want prosecuting whoever
you will prosecute. I mean, if this had happened in America, for example, the state will prosecute the mother and pick the child and put them in a social welfare home or foster home, wherever it is. What is our case? What does our foster home system
I think
look
that's
like?
the key.
So if you are picking, that's why the families would always want to step in to solve.
When you take the mother
because
now,
if you take the mother off, who will take care of the child? I mean, where does the provision come? How much do we even allocate to social welfare in this country? The last budget that was read, how much was put there? Where are the shelters? Where are the mothers? Where are the caregivers? Where are the social workers? And the University of Ghana, Tech, UCC, Social Advance, all of them build up and train people for social work. How are they employed and engaged? You find them now in banks dispensing money. So our social structure is weak. Good morning to you, Madam Otiko Jaba. And we hope that, you know, we will get some solution, at least not all of it within your time, but let's see that we are making inroads. Good morning to you.
This issue is beginning to receive a lot of traction. The paperless port.
Right.
Yesterday, the Finder also published a similar story.
Absolutely.
And the Finder was asking questions about how come a single window now has become 3 windows. Initially, it was just one institution engaged in managing the ports. Now we're told that 2 more have been brought in. And so the key questions being asked, or one of the key questions being asked, is whether it has not then reversed the very gains we have made. Now, when you are adding more companies to do the collection and run of the port, you are losing some of the revenue you intend to generate to them. So I don't know what exactly Dr. Baumia, whose name has been tagged to that paperless project, would do. But I guess it's an issue that should draw his attention so that he goes there to deal with it.
I agree.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to move on because, I mean, with the paperless ports issue, it's under threat because, like Bright said, the issues that have come up with having the human faces coming back to it, because the main idea was to move away from having too many people having hands in it. But now we're coming back to that. So they have to look at it, otherwise
it comes back to the implementation process. At first, we were told that we're doing a pilot. Right. At what point did we go full haul or long haul to get the project running fully? Okay, now, since we started running, have we paused to do an evaluation, an audit to say, these are the loopholes we have, these are the challenges we have, let's fix them and then leapfrog again? If we have not done that, then we will have these problems through and through. Because mind you, back in the day, if you go to the ports, at every point, you have to pay money. If unofficial, you have to sort somebody out.
Eventually, when you have sorted out and you even leave in the last gate,
you need to sort somebody out who would come and there are a lot of people who parade themselves as BNI national security around the ports. You can't tell who they really are, and they all collect money. I mean, we saw Anas's expose and some of our personal experiences. So the people were living on those Goro and Kulikuli from those places, not earning proper salaries from the Ports and Harbours Authority. Now they have all been taken off. Obviously, they will try and find their way back into it. How did we police and get to those places. That's the question.
So when you talk about the auditing, I mean, not too long ago, we had a report saying that the paperless ports had been able to acquire some revenue looking at the transition when we didn't have it.
That was the pilot.
So, exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean, in assessment, I feel that gave them credence to think that if it was able to do this in the short time we've piloted it and as against when it wasn't done, then maybe they thought, okay, then it's working, let's just move on. But actual assessment of seeing how many loopholes is actually, you know, covered, plugged, and the resources, I think we never do. The pilots always just transition to the full by default.
At the port, it's somebody's job to just take a paper from maybe this office and take it to the control room, and that's his job. It's not official. He has created that job per relationship he has. So when you bring the papers, they'll have to gather it. You all sit down. He takes it there and goes to just drop it and comes back.
But it's similar to the story we had from the Flagstaff House, the presidential staffers, where people's names are not there, but they seem to work there because they created their own offices and it's working for them.
Right. So,
but you know, GJA and this Hajia Fatih issue as well. I mean, not too long ago, we spoke about it when our very own we had Latif, we had our own also Godfrey Tanam being tagged, and we spoke about it. And then on the back of this, we've had even someone, Hajia Fatih, adding on to it. So it's not just about the talk. I'm really looking forward to GJ pressing on to make sure people get resolutions. Particularly, why would a party member think that they have so much power to attack anybody? Because this is not the first time Hajia Fatih in particular has done this. It's repeated. And so is it that the politician too, who is aware of this, cannot stop her because maybe she's funding them on some, you know, platform, or she's just giving them credence or giving them the backing they want as a voice? Until we put all this politics aside, these things won't stop. And I'm looking forward to her actually being punished for it, because you can't do that to your child. If she was your child, is that how you'd have attacked her?
You see,
I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all.
This is a very serious issue, but I want to take a look at the other side of the issue. You see, I suspect that Hajia Fatih has opened a window about these attacks on journalists. Now, she boldly told the whole Ghana that she thought the young lady was an onion seller.
Can you imagine?
Is it possible that the people who are attacking journalists do not see them as journalists because of perhaps the way they are dressed? And so why would they attack someone? They see you with a microphone. Sometimes they see you with a camera. Sometimes they see you obviously with a pen and paper trying to scribble something. And yet they fail to acknowledge that you are doing your work, so they attack you.
Right, you know.
So
you know,
I am confused.
You see, when I decided to do journalism, there was a regime of most of the journalists, especially those who reported for newspapers, who would wear oversized shirts. Sometimes it's faded, and you go to programs and they look a bit unkempt. Forgive my French.
Right.
I decided, and some of my friends, we decided, like, we're not going to look like these people because we wanted to earn some respect for ourselves, aside the job that we do. I mean, we didn't believe that journalism was just another job. So we spec ourselves. And look, the lady, I've seen the photograph of what she was wearing. She was wearing kaba and slit. Kaba and slit anywhere is equal to a suit and tie.
Yeah.
So if you say she was dressed like an onion seller, that's an insult, first of all, even to the onion seller.
You know,
now, doesn't the onion seller have a right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Doesn't
so
the onion seller have a right?
Trying to say Hajia Fatih has a right to abuse an onion seller. Because, Bride, in this era of freedom of speech, freedom of whatever it is, I have a right to want to video whatever I want to video. I have a right to take my phone to decide to pen down whatever I want to pen down. If you have a problem with it, you're supposed to approach me and ask me, for which maybe if I need permission and I didn't seek that permission, then I'd have to, you know, go through the right channels. But you have no right to think that assaulting me in an instance is the right way to resolve an issue. It doesn't make sense in any way. It doesn't, because in my view, she thinks that if the woman was an onion seller, then it's okay to abuse her.
And then she says that, well, so she thought it was an onion seller who was sent by Sami Crab to the party headquarters. That was low.
Look, so at the just ended World Press Freedom Day, there was a session on investigative journalism and ethical conversation. And one of the key things that came up was that journalists must learn to devise self-protective strategies And I think that it's come up strongly again. This is just a few days after what? The World Press Freedom Day. And I'm happy that the GJ is now not going beyond we condemn it in no uncertain terms, the statements, and saying that we are putting together a legal team to institute a legal action against, and I believe that we must do it. Look, the GJ doesn't lack the legal expertise. We have a lot of lawyers, in there. So if they come together and they are willing and of course they are able, they will deal with this matter. Let's use this as a test
I'm just
case.
hoping that we don't find a situation where the NPP and Hajia Fati goes in to sit down with the GJ and the usual traditional way of resolving
I don't believe
problems.
Mr. Money will agree.
They agree a kind of an out of court settlement. I was here when, after I think the 2012 elections, the NPP's team led by Madame Uboshisai Kofi and the information minister Nana Kumia walked in because one of our cameramen, Steve Bwedu, was beaten by some MPP thugs, and eventually the case was left there. I think that we have gotten to a point where some of these things must happen so that those who have the intention of perpetrating these things will be stopped.
But
because
I believe that
I ask a simple question. Look, I go to a passport office and it's been closed, and so I asked that how come a public office is closed and the public isn't aware? And a police officer on duty is able to retort back. Who does he think he is to say that passport office is closed, so they should tell him? Okay, this is from a police officer. So a journalist doing my work, asking questions, he thinks that I don't have the right to ask questions. I think that if we take on these persons, this thing was, but if we do the usual, let's sit down, talk. There are a few exchange of words. We are sorry for what happened. It will continue.
I believe that. I don't believe that a GJ will fall for that. And I believe that Mr. Afilmoni and the rest of the team, Linda and the rest, will not fail us. But if they do, these individuals, Tanam, Efiapokwa, Latif, Sechua, and all of that, should take up the matter themselves and go to court. I know we have friends who are lawyers who can file cases on our behalf and deal with this matter. We must put a stop to it. This is hogwash. It is primitive. It is medieval. It is absurd. It is not right. And when I hear people defending it, I feel so sad.
How do you defend?
These are the same people. I was talking about this bus pipe.
Yeah.
All the people living around that stretch saw the pipe. They seen it busting. It's affecting their water supply, but nobody was complaining. I went there, I talked about it, and in less than 24 hours, it was fixed. Everybody is happy. That's the work of a journalist. So if the same journalist sees rubbish gathered somewhere and wants to take a photo, you assault the journalist. So are you just looking at a one-sided, lopsided effect of journalism? Come on. Come on. And I expect the Minister for Information, Dr. Mustafa Hamid, his deputy, Kojo Nkrumah, Curtis Okujetu, and Amadukwa, to talk about these things, because they are supposed to be an arm of us as well, the fourth estate of the realm. They should talk about it. Good morning.
All right.
Anyway, but also talking about the RTI bill and the fact that MPs are meeting on it and also allowing voices to be heard on that bill. I mean, it's been long. 17 years down the line, we're still having discussions. And, you know, we put the question to Mr. Ben Abdallah Honorable when he came to Captured by Women, asking that to what end? What happens if the bill is passed today? What are the clauses in that bill that don't make it favorable? Because at the end of the day, it's not going to favor everybody.
Right.
There's still going to be issues. Because I heard him talking about exemptions, where he says, for example, we can't talk about a contract between, say, a bilateral agreement between America and Ghana. And I thought, okay, at some point why can't we talk about it? At some point you think, okay, that's fine. But with this U.S. military issue that came up, we spoke about it in public because they affected Ghanaians. Right. Why does something like that have to be exempt? But eventually, if it's carried as exempt, then we don't have any right. It will be so until we amend it. I really don't see that big fuss.
This whole thing about RTI is simply a case of the politician being scared about who is looking over what shoulders. Yes, I mean, nobody should break. Look, even if the law, which law in Ghana can be said to be perfect? Haven't we passed RUPAL, which is still sitting on our statute books, and we are yet to implement it because of the challenges. If a bill has challenges, let's go ahead and pass it. When we get to the where we need to cross the T's, we'll do it.
We'll do
so
it.
this
Look,
dragging of feet and stuff like that.
I've said that at the beginning of this year, the president assented onto 5 separate bills to become laws at the beginning of the year, including the special prosecutor's law. So, and how long ago did we take those laws to Parliament? Okay, some of them were even passed on a note of emergency. The president, at the time he was appointing his ministers, sent a letter to Parliament, says he is in a hurry, so he expects that they will do this expeditiously. Okay. Is the right to information bill important to the president? And I believe it is, because the president in 2001, while he was Attorney General, pushed for the repeal of the criminal libel law. This will be a linkage or an offshoot to it. So, Mr. President, this is yes, but this is critical. I mean, I don't get the whole pussyfooting, around it. I don't get it. Where we say we don't know what manner of information may get into some hands and we'll be exposing and all of that.
Because
in any case,
in the absence of it, information still gets into any hands and is used anyhow. So really, like Bright said, it's about passing it. If there are amendments to be made, they'll be made at the appropriate time. Because for 17 years, it sounds to me as a joke, as if we don't even know what we want. When we put the same question to Mr. Abdallah concerning the fact that isn't that politicians are afraid of what may come up, he says, oh, well, it's not only the politicians who suffer, it comes to even private organizations that are using public funds. And I said, well, they haven't spoken, they don't seem to be. Exactly. At the end of it, is the politician who is the majority stakeholder to not be benefiting from this RTI.
Maybe they don't want the law to be passed so that if you come asking questions, we can beat you.
But right, I'm seeing the gas explosion.
The gas explosion. Okay, let's wrap up on that.
We're wrapping up on that. The conversation will always come up about filling stations and gas stations and how close they are to residential areas and all of that. First up, how did they get the permit to build that? I've been talking about Cell Oil and some other filling, Lucky Oil at the Pambros area, where Kwekun Nkrumah has 2 filling stations sandwiching his home. He has lost 2 of his children due to that. His wife is pregnant, has a severe migraine, so they have had to take him to. And he himself, when he speaks, he pants for breath. He says each time they discharge fuel, he can't cope. In 2016, Community Connect chased up the story. Then they were told that the license was revoked. Turn around 2018, the license has been reinstated and the work is briskly going on. So NPA, EPA, Fire Service, the local assembly, everybody else suddenly saw that, well, a license that was revoked has suddenly gotten space. And we're told of the impunity that a man, a certain Alhaji Lukman, says they can go to the moon. He has all the money to do everything. I remember back in the day, I called Jerry Akwe Thompson. I asked him, how that had happened.
That could happen.
He said the place had been zoned to be both residential and commercial.
But certainly not commercial. We have 2 filling stations sandwiches.
For people's homes to be there long before, 2 decades at least, before the filling stations came. How did I don't know, but it's not to which hands owners of filling stations and gas stations.
Things should just be done right.
Let's do the things right. Safety measures should be put in place.
All right.
Anyway, guys, we've spoken enough.
Yeah, the newspapers with all the headlines, and of course, we'll have a deeper review right after the break. Stay right here on Newday. We're back in a moment. All right, thanks so much for staying there. And the newspapers are ready. I guess you've seen the headlines. Daily Graphic is talking about equipping the police service. Ghanaian Times carries the same story. And today newspaper has gas explosion injuring 3. But before I tell you who my guests are, let us look at the Today newspaper. On page 14, Imani has written a piece there suggesting that the government does not have any responsibility to find the teeming unemployed graduate nurses across the country jobs. The Vice President of Imani, Kofi Bentel, his comments comes after the Coalition for Public Trained Nurses described government's plan to enroll them onto the Nation Builders Corps as very sad. Now, signing on to the policy, they said, will be the beginning of the extension of nursing and midwifery in Ghana. That's what they are suggesting. But Mr. Bentel says that if the nurses feel they were worth more than 700 cedis, they should go find their own jobs. The problem with nurses and teachers, I think, in Ghana is that government assumes the responsibility of finding them jobs. This is Imani talking here. But yesterday, the nurses took to the streets and protested. They actually asked government to take them off that program and offer them permanent jobs. Now, let's listen to the nurses.
By 9:30 a.m., the trainee nurses from different unions had gathered at the Obra Sport at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle in Accra. The protest was against the government's plans to enroll them onto the Heal Ghana module under the Nation Builders Corps. President Akufo-Addo last week launched the Nation Builders Corps, which is intended to employ 100,000 young graduates to assist in public sector service delivery needs of the country.
The terms and conditions of Heal Ghana are not being favorable. In the first place, the scope of employment and the terms and conditions is unconstitutional with reference to Article 24, Clause 1, which states that every person have the right to work under safety and healthy conditions and to be paid equal salary for equal work done without any distinction of any kind. Now, we are professional trained nurses and other health professionals, which there is no difference between we and those currently in the world working.
President of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwifery Association, Dr. Kweku Asante-Krobia, said the NAPCO package does not commensurate with what the labor union has negotiated on behalf of health workers.
If they have money for NAPCO, I believe they have money to engage my nurses and midwives. If somebody is looking at the whole situation as NAPCO has come to help nurses and midwife graduates, he must think again.
According to the group, 9,905 nurses assistant clinical and nurse assistant preventive of 2015 batch who were promised by a deputy health minister, Tina Mensah, to be cleared by the end of March are yet to know their fate. Representatives of some 554 diploma graduate nurses and midwives of 2015 batch who finished their service in September 2016 are still unemployed. 5,380 private trained nurses and midwives who were verified by the Ministry of Health are equally due for employment. The nurses marched to the Heart Park, where a deputy health minister, Tina Mensah, received a petition on behalf of the vice president.
I've taken the petition from you. It will be taken to the vice president accordingly. I believe your concerns will be looked into, and then it will be addressed accordingly.
The nurses expected more than just a promise to deliver their petition to the vice president.
That was in a camera, okay? At least stand and address what? The populists that are here, that this and this, I've heard all of you. And then we what? Engage you in stakeholder meetings, or your promise, or the 2 weeks ultimatum. This and that is what we are going to do. It is rather unfair.
With 700 Ghana cedis as monthly salary for the 3-year period under NAPCO, the nurses argued they would prefer to stay home till government is ready to provide them with permanent jobs. Kwabna Edu Jenfi, TV3.
Right, and that will be our first topic this morning. My guest to do the talking, the Member of Parliament for the Asin South constituency, is a member of the NPP, Reverend Johnny Tim Fojo is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing great.
Well, by the grace
and
of
how's
God,
the constituency
I'm doing
doing?
very well. The Lord is blessing us.
Great.
Yes, the Lord is blessing.
Right. Thanks so much for joining us. And a former member of Parliament for the Ablekuma Central constituency is a member of the NDS, Honorable Theophilus Seteta is also here. Good morning.
Good
I hope you're doing great.
Great.
Thanks for your time too. Let's straight away take a look at the nurses issue. Reverend Tim Fojo, let me start with you. Now, Imani, the nurses are demanding that they be given permanent jobs. Imani is suggesting that it is not government's responsibility to provide jobs to these persons. Now, if they feel that the 700 isn't what they want, they can go look for their own jobs. The minister received the petition. Should government take another look at the nurses in particular in the NAPCO whole idea?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity once again, and a good morning to my good friend, Honorable Tatachai, and a good morning to all our esteemed viewers. I must use this opportunity to congratulate all the newly elected regional officers of MPP in Central Region. Remember, you granted me your esteemed platform to extend some wishes, good words for them, and thankfully they've all won, and we thank God for all their successes, and we pledge our support to ensure that Central Region continues to grow from strength to strength in respect of MPP. And a good morning to my Ascent South NPP constituency chairman, Mr. Theophilus Taylor. In respect of NAPCO, it is a very important intervention that we must acknowledge. And we must accept and situate the challenge we have as a society within the context that over the years, unemployment has been the bane of the country, and unemployment has had manifested in various facets, right from JHS. There are a lot of people who are not even able to graduate to the second cycle institutions, and those people need jobs. Some unskilled jobs will have to be provided for them. Now, out of over 400,000 average number of students that pass out from the second cycle institutions every year, not all of them are able to find space even in the tertiaries. And those that truncate the education there also require some semi-skilled jobs. Now, over 150,000 who find themselves in all tertiary institutions, nursing, training, agricultural institutions, technical universities, college of education, and private and traditional universities after school would need employment. How many jobs are available? Of course, it's important to recognize that the biggest effort to be, and that is the direction of President Akufo-Addo, to free up energies in the private sector to ensure expansion, to absorb some of these. But that will still not be enough to absorb, and there's a backlog. And year on year, over 200,000 and 300,000 new graduates from these tertiary institutions add to the backlog, and not much is absorbed. So you can have people who have graduated for 6 years, 8 years, who are still unemployed. Now, when these unemployment challenges keep piling, it has very serious implications, even on security, poverty, and other implications going forward. Now, if in the past, for the past 10 years, 8 years, there had been a strategic policy to absorb even 50,000 of these unemployed graduates, there wouldn't be a situation where an association of unemployed graduates will be occasioned. And gradually that challenge would have been abated. Right. But we sit here going forward. I'm scared at the future going forward if something very critical as NAPCO is not implemented going forward, tackling unemployment jobs. Now, unemployment challenge. I predict politically, analyzing, I predict that going forward, 2020, 2024, 2032, and the subsequent elections that are going to be done will be won on jobs, will be won on which government has been able to provide jobs, will be won by which party institute or plans to institute policies that will respond to jobs. That is going to be a critical deciding, among other factors, a critical deciding factor. Now, I agree with Imani to an extent that it may not be a primary responsibility of government to ensure certain direct, employment is offered. However, in the jurisdiction that we live in, and in Ghana as a country that we live, we have certain peculiar challenges. And it is proper that government policies are targeted at responding to the needs of the people. And we recognize unemployment is one very important need. Now, YEA, fortunately, is tackling an aspect of that unemployment from the skilled, from the unskilled and the semi-skilled, and it's important that assertive efforts are targeted at graduates. Here, let me give you just some experiences. There are a majority of Ghanaians like myself who, after completing various tertiary institutions, did not have enough connections to earn certain good jobs, and would have to stay home for years. Now, as we speak, right, there are several hundreds of thousands of people who have masters, who are certain double degrees, who are even seeking unpaid attachment just to secure that experience, just to secure that opportunity even to be abreast with employable skills. Now we have people who have even returned from their studies abroad with several master's degrees, who are on 350 cities allowance, who are on about 450 cities allowance in certain media houses, in certain hospitals, in certain banks, in certain microfinance organizations on casual basis. This is the reality, and the government, of course, couldn't have sat unconcerned.
Your point is that the nurses don't have a case, just like Imani is saying.
No, specifically with the concern of the nurses. Of course, I mean the nurses have their rights to seek demands that will inure to their welfare.
But do they have a case? Now, the point they are raising.
The point they are raising
that 700 cities is unfair because their colleagues who have been given permanent jobs will be earning more.
Let me explain here. At the outset, I must establish that NAPCO is voluntary. Purely voluntary.
Right.
No group of people or professionals are being forced into signing up to NAPCO. The existing arrangement that the Ministry of Health has with trained nurses is still in place. And let me submit that, I mean, watching the documentary that was just played before we started the discussion, it was recorded that some 9,000 nurses who graduated in 2015 are still awaiting for clearance. Some nurses that graduated in 2016, about 5,000 of them are awaiting license. Some graduates, about 4,000 that graduated in 2014, were awaiting license. And we can recount the statistics on and on till 2009. And most of these are outstanding. What assertive efforts were done at granting clearance? Something may have been done.
Right.
Something may have been done. However, how significant was that? Within just 1.5 years, upon the assumption of office by President Akufo-Addo, we've been able to not only grant clearances, and as a matter of fact, employment has been given. 16,500 trained nurses have been employed within the space of 1.5 years. So the president has performed creditably when it comes to meeting the needs of the trained nurses. And that is why I expect the trained nurses to appreciate and commend. Now, what we are saying here is that for any graduate who has completed the 1-year mandatory national service, there's opportunity for you to sign up to NAPCO at 700 cedis salary per month for the next 3 years to gain that employable skills, whilst you're also being an asset to the state and the state benefiting from your services. And at any point in time, it's voluntary.
Right.
Should any health professional sign up to NAPCO at any point in time, whether a month later, 3 months later, a year later, at any period within the process, that the financial clearance is given in respect of those people, that person automatically just goes on. So that is the engagement that I expect the leaders of the trained nurses to have with the ministry, or however, even more appropriately, the Minister of Health and the ministry, to even engage them to offer these explanations to them. Perhaps if they understood it, they would know that NAPCO is only augmenting the existing arrangement, and that it is not going to be endemical to their welfare.
I am grateful. Honorable Tetechai, now, the NAPCO is not compulsory. You can decide to join or not to. Now, if that is the case, then the nurses, their demonstration and that the petition they have sent is really needless.
Right. Let me say good morning to our viewers. And right, let me say here clearly that the nurses have a case. The nurses have an agreement with government. In fact, I don't know how this story was carved in terms of the headline, but reading the story, you realize that the vice president of Imani, he was not in favor of government's responsibility to find jobs for nurses. But currently, as the situation is, it is the duty of government, because nurses are
a contract between nurses and government.
Exactly.
Okay.
So until that policy is changed, I don't think any person has to come out to condemn the nurses for the actions that they are taking, because that is the conditions under which they went into training.
The action taken as in asking for
them to be
permanently employed, or kicking against Heal Ghana.
They have that right. and
Okay.
even to kick against what is happening. Right. I've always said that, look, when we talk of good governance, largely it lies on the citizenry. Because if we are to allow governance to be controlled by the executive, then as a country we are doomed. And so therefore, the youth, the citizens of this country, needs to be active partakers in the good governance that we are all talking about. Why? During the elections, political parties were putting out information to the youth. And this government promised the youth of this country providing them secured jobs. And it was one of their mantra for the elections, okay? The youth of this country bought this message and so therefore voted massively for His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia. Now, after 17 months in office, what the youth of this country have witnessed is consistent postponement of government's obligation to provide jobs for the youth.
No, that is...
Hold on. You were given about 30 minutes to speak. I never uttered a word.
Allow it to the chair. We have spent just 20 minutes.
You should allow me.
You couldn't have spoken for
yes,
30 minutes.
but
Right.
I didn't utter a word.
Okay, all right.
Reverend.
Okay, you go on. Go on.
Right. Consistently, and especially Dr. Bawumia, consistently postponing critical things that this government intended to do for this country. Likewise, the president, especially on this one district, one factory thing. We have how many districts in this country?
I think we're at
about
254 now.
Yes, about 200 and something. Okay? If by this time, government has even initiated a single factory, it would have cooled down the tensions that we see today. Okay? Since last year, government comes out, 51 factories are ready for takeoff. Up to today, not a single factory has been set up. And you want the youth to sit down and then be happy about the government? Now, when this government came into office, right, see the limited recruitments that they've done into the ministries, departments, and agencies. Most of these recruitments are family members. They've been put into permanent jobs.
But they're Ghanaians.
Yes.
They're Ghanaians and they qualify to do the job.
The underlying word is permanent jobs.
Okay, all right.
Permanent jobs. And that is what the youth are seeking today. That look, they need permanent jobs. Why? Right. Look at the Youth Employment Agency. There is a model which is for graduates, okay? People who have gone through the university to do internship. The model is still there now, okay? Why is it that government wants to create another bureaucracy? To waste the little resources that we have. What the nurses are saying is very simple.
Government is changing over. The YA will now deal with non-graduate and then NAPCO will deal with graduates.
Do you know how much is going to be used in setting up that structure? How much is going to be used in setting up that structure? How much vehicles are going to be bought? How much we are going to spend on furniture and fittings? These are the wasteful expenditure that the president needs to look at. Because he's promised us he wants to protect the pest. YA already has the structures. So if really we want to help our graduate youth who are unemployed, all what we needed to do was to ensure that employment is provided along that chain. But now we are trying to create a bureaucracy. But you see, the youth of today are becoming very, very wise. And that is why they are saying, no, Mr. President, we need employment that is sustainable. Because look, whether you like it or not, this is a systematic calculation by the MPP to ensure that the youth remain calm to the end of the next elections. And let me tell you why. because they came into office on the background of providing jobs for the youth. And within getting to the 2 years in office, they've not been able to provide those things that will create that sustainable job for the youth. Please, please. What they are now doing is to provide something that will allay the fears of the youth to say that, oh, the government will be willing to provide us jobs. But in the truth of the matter is that government has not found an antidote to the unemployment situation.
So the nurses are justified?
Look, they are more than justified. Look.
Right, so let me
oh,
please.
Oh,
yeah, Reverend, I'll come to you.
I'm only signaling for attention.
Look, look,
anyway.
Bright, I've said that consistently, this government has been postponing events, okay? Look at the recruitment of these nurses, clearance. How many times have these nurses not gone to the health ministry? How many promises have not been given to them? That your clearance are with the finance ministry. Oh, give us 1 month. We are going to clear you. Now government is telling us that it has resources that it can use to employ over 100,000 people on temporary basis. And the nurses are saying that, look, government, you think we are not wise? We are wise up. What we need is our permanent jobs. If you have resources to employ 100,000, then we are only 3,000. Employers. Because all what you told us was that we needed what? Clearance from the finance ministry. So if today there are resources at the finance ministry that will be used for this project, then clear us. Let us go and start work.
I see.
What else
can
they ask for?
Okay, so
Right.
so
Reverend,
the issue is that since it is not a compulsory program, they can decide not to join. I mean the nurses.
Of course, and that is
but
why
they can demand
that is why they are making their voice to be heard.
Okay.
Because it's like they are being deceived, and they also have a stake in our governance. They also have the right to demand the national cake, and that is why they are demanding the national cake. And for me, it shows clearly that we are taking the electorate for granted, per what the MPP administration is doing. We are taking the electorate for granted. Look, I've always said that, look, the only way government can sustain this employment generation thing is for government to influence growth in this country. Look, most of our advanced countries we see today, what has made them to be where they are today? Because they've put in the right infrastructure that will lead to growth. As we talk today, these nurses are on the street crying. We have a hospital line fallow which can employ over 800
And why
staff.
didn't you employ them?
Please.
No, some of these arguments
No,
are very, very untenable. Some of these arguments, within 8 years, how many staff did you employ?
Please.
Right, let me,
Reverend, if you're asking him why didn't they employ them, isn't that why we voted them out so that you could employ
them? Let me respond
for 1.5 years.
Right, let me respond.
For 1 year, 7 months, the
hospital
is lying fallow. And then
let me
people
respond
who are
to that.
I'll get you to respond.
Okay.
Reverend, I'll get you to respond. Let him wrap up.
He asked me a question. So
Yes. Honorable Tete, wrap up for me. Let me get Reverend to.
No. I mean, honorable. Just make your submission. He asked me a question.
So the propaganda is becoming too much of our politics, and the youth today are getting wiser.
Okay.
And they should continue to demand.
I'm grateful.
Because that is what we've promised them.
Okay. Reverend, so the issue is that, well, the NEC failed to employ them. That's why we voted them out. Yeah. And instead of this government employing them, they're rather giving them a job which the nurses feel is not sustainable.
Yeah, Bright, I think one may be missing the point. If NAPCO is reduced to only health, NAPCO
it is big, but we're paying attention to the nurses because yesterday they demonstrated.
I'm responding.
Okay.
You know, propaganda is when a government fails in 8 years to employ unemployed nurses, and then after a turnover, within 1.5 years, 16,500 nurses have been employed. And then it comes to complain about 3,000. You just mentioned here that the 3,000 nurses are demanding clearance for which the whole of NAPCO must be stopped and the resources channeled into providing them jobs.
That is not the argument.
That is
the
argument
we're engaging is whether the nurses have a case. It is not the whole of NAPCO.
And I have responded that, one, in the first place, 16,500 nurses have been employed within the space of 1.5 years. How many were employed in the space of 8 years under the NDC?
One. You came to meet.
That is one question. That is most unfortunate.
No, it's true.
I do not expect this propaganda.
What is stopping?
These are clearances we gave.
What is stopping the 3,000 from being employed?
Now, two.
Is it a matter of
if you allow
funding?
me, I will inform you.
Okay.
There are plans to grant clearance for additional 10,000 within 2018. In addition to the 16,500 that have already been granted and employed. So by the end of this year, we are going to have 26,500 people employed.
So the petition that the nurses sent to the deputy minister will certainly receive a positive
and that is why I submitted at the beginning that it is just a matter of engagement for my good brothers and sisters, nurses that are trained, to appreciate that we came to power, 16,500 have been employed. There's a plan to employ additional 10. No, that is not. That is not, and that must not be submitted.
No, it's true.
That propaganda will not fly.
No,
that propaganda will not fly. Now, to focus on my submission, plans are in place to grant clearance for additional 10,000. So if you're complaining about 3,000 demands, that is, and I'm submitting to you
Reverend,
that
you're not saying that the 3,000 cannot demand.
No, I'm saying that 3,000 is even much lesser than the actual number of trained nurses that have to be given jobs, and for which we are going to grant 10,000 clearances to respond to that. Now again, coming to
quickly, let's wrap up and move to another issue.
Assert that the NAPCO policy is a wasteful policy and wasteful expenditure that exposes, the thinking of NDC with regards to the youth. How insensitive they are committing these resources committing resources into providing 100,000 jobs for unemployed youth, which is a very important demand of our nation as we speak. Unemployment, you see, sometimes politics, because of politics,
the argument is that now we have 254 districts, which means that NAPCO would have 254 offices. The argument is that, for instance, the National Service Scheme is in every district. The YEA is in every district. The argument is that couldn't we have run NAPCO through these instead of setting up offices in 254 districts? And is that not monies that could have gone into something else? That is the argument.
One will be missing the point if the focus here is not on the jobs that are going to be created, but an office that is going to be created.
Running the office comes with money.
No, right. What I want to understand is what argument is NDC putting forth. Let me tell you this.
It is not the youth of Ghana alone. For instance, the youth of Ghana, civil society groups have raised concerns that if we set up a similar office, NSS has offices in this district, YEA has offices. Now we are setting up NAPCO offices. They are simply asking that, won't we reduce the expenditure if we run NAPCO through these offices? That's a simple question they're asking.
You see, these arguments, and let's focus on the majors. And the most important thing here is that 100,000 youth, and there may be 300,000 even unemployed graduates as we speak. And we must appreciate that, you see, politics must not, have us not focusing on the major sensitive problems and challenges that society faces, and be concerned with, because an office will be created, it is not important to do this, because how much will be expended on an office at a district for which that 100,000 jobs that are going to be created for the youth will be created. Let me submit to you. So far, within just less than a week, 40,000 applications have been received online.
Are you saying that if we run NAPCO through NSS or YE, we cannot create 100,000 jobs? I do not know
why your interest only solely lies on the office creation.
He's
or
because it comes with money.
He's a taxpayer.
And that is
resources are being wasted.
One government have failed in providing jobs for the youth, and graduate unemployment associations have been formed. And officers, if all that it took for 100,000 people to have jobs in every 3 years was for offices to be created, Ghanaians would have been excited.
Okay.
That is what we must. Let us not miss the point. Now, I must also debunk the propaganda put forth that government has, reneged and postponed their commitments in responding to the youth and promises that we made to the youth. Free SHS has started the moment we came into office. There have been several hundreds of thousands of jobs that have been created. Even the community police module of the YEA, about 13,000 jobs have been created. We've had 16,500 jobs created for the trained nurses, which NDC failed to employ them. And we see, these are the important things that we have done, which they failed to do. Let me tell you, NDC people are applying.
Let me move on. Reverend, I'm grateful. Let me move on to some other issue. We've run out of time. Let me quickly move on to the other issue.
Have signed up. Now, the people who are kicking against the policy, responding, this is a pro-poor policy, responding to the people who, like myself, who struggle to get jobs. Most of their children are have been employed in JP Morgan, Chase, and Chevron, and highly placed.
I'm grateful.
Let us be sensitive to the ordinary Ghanaian who doesn't have that connection to be employed.
He says that it doesn't matter. Your argument is that when you set up offices to run a process that you could have run through some other offices existing, it's a wasteful expenditure. His argument is that, well, it doesn't matter as long as jobs will be created.
No, it doesn't matter. How much will be expended?
Okay, so the amount of money that will go into running the secretariat in 254 district doesn't already matter as long as jobs
Parliament
will
approved
be
that
given.
budget. How wasteful is that?
Quickly, and then we'll move on to
committing
some
resources
other
into employing 100,000 people.
Reverend.
It's wasteful, and that is the thinking of
Reverend,
NDC.
you allow him so that we'll move on.
Bright.
God save Ghana.
He cannot keep quiet and allow me to talk because he's realized that the youth of today are really angry at the way they are handling the economy of this country. Bright, I'll repeat this thing and repeat it again, that the president is not protecting the public purse. No. Rather, we are engaged in wasteful expenditure. Right, why am I saying this? As you rightly said,
you have just a minute, quickly.
Employ 100,000 jobs.
Reverend, why? Reverend, why?
Reverend, you allow him to wrap up.
It is not your interjections. No, it is not your interjections that will make people.
You said it is not wasteful. He says you said it is not wasteful. He says it is, and he's giving an example that you already have a system running. Why don't you run the system through? You said that it doesn't matter because of the jobs.
The budget's committed into
the budget, of course, the budget is there. But you said it doesn't matter as long as jobs will be created. So you allow him.
This amount of money that has been committed in
Reverend, why? Reverend, you're suggesting that as long as jobs will be created, it doesn't matter if some money.
That is not the point.
What is the point?
As long as jobs will be created, a budgetary allocation has been made for this policy, which has been approved.
And his argument is that that budgetary allocation could have gone into something else if the program is run through a similar structure, a similar office that is already there.
What aspect of the program is wasteful? If committing public resources into providing 100,000 jobs for our brothers and sisters who are unemployed, and NDC calls it wasteful expenditure, let me submit to you, $120 million was embezzled. Through these Ameri deals, there are a lot of mass branding and other,
and that is why we voted them out.
And all this money that was wasted.
Your argument, then that is why we voted them out. The point is that he's making a suggestion that he thinks that you could have done it other way. If you think it is not, you allow him to land, and then we can move on. Please wrap up for me. Let me move on to some other issues.
You see, anytime they lose the argument, they then jump into people stealing money, people doing some of. Look, just about 3 weeks ago, we were talking about Metro Mass. Do you remember what happened?
I thought you were going to wrap up.
So I'm wrapping up. No, I'm just reminding you.
Let me move on.
Right. All what the youth of today are saying, that the government. Reverend, why?
Okay. All right.
And the jobs
let me move on.
Right, continue.
Okay. Now let's go to the Daily Heritage this morning. GJA to head to court over assault on a Dome FM reporter. The GJA, that's the Ghana Journalists Association, is considering legal action against a member of the NPP who has confirmed slapping a journalist on duty. The president of the association, Afel Money, said all other cases of assault will be followed closely to ensure justice is served. He gave the assurance at the press conference. Let me start the conversation here. Assault on journalists. We have seen situations where parties will sit down and talk. GGA this time says we're heading to court. Is it in the right direction?
Better late than never. And I must commend the DJ president for that bold statement. In fact, the MPP office for some time now has been turned into an area that is really very insecure for journalists over the past period. And this particular woman is noted for assaulting journalists. The DJ needs to take a serious action against the party for this type of conduct, especially you just recently celebrated the World
Press Freedom Day. And Ghana has been acclaimed as one of the countries that press freedom is really entrenched. Unfortunately, records show that under the current administration has witnessed some form of barbaric attacks on the press within this short period. It didn't happen under the previous administration?
In terms of figures, it has been worse, one of the worst in the history of the country, within this short period. Your sister organization, they came out with the statistics to show that the MPP administration is not giving Ghana that needed respect they have to get from the international community. Mm-hmm. As a result of certain organizations within governmental circles also involved in some of this barbaric handling of the press. You quite remember, recently, a Joy FM reporter was badly assaulted by the police when Koko Anyedoho was sent to the police headquarters. So what happened? And then this issue of Ajia also physically attacking another media house reporter who is also a lady. And if you listen to the argument, what led to the attack, it tells you the mindset of some of our political figures. And the woman is in question is not even an executive member of the party. Okay? She's not an executive member of the party. So how did she get that penchant for attacking journalists and for the party to sit down unconcerned over the period? It is very worrying.
We're yet to receive a statement from the party, but
it is very worrying.
But does it mean they are sitting down consent?
Since when did this thing happen? The DJA has come out to hold a press conference on the issue. For how long is the party waiting to respond to this issue, especially when the thing occurred in their premises? Not even outside the gate, but in the building. The lady was punched in the mouth. Right in the premises. And per my discussion with Reverend, he said he was even around. Unfortunately, he didn't see how the thing happened. But he was around that time that the incident took place. So for how long is the party waiting to formalize a response? It clearly tells you that this thing was sanctioned. Of course.
That's an allegation.
Of course. I have to allege.
Okay.
Because if this thing was not sanctioned, are you saying that since the time this thing occurred, the party something that occurred within the premises, even inside the offices of the party. The party could not issue a response, even a disclaimer that this was not sanctioned by the executives of the party. But you see, it was calculated to a certain member of the party because they felt that the member did not have the right to come for nomination form. And so therefore, whoever followed that person should be assaulted. And the most annoying aspect of it is for the woman to describe the press lady that she assaulted her because she thought she dressed like an onion seller. That is an insult. I'm asking the press, do you have a dress code? In performing your duty, do you have a dress code? No. All what you use in identifying yourself is your office tax. And that is it. As to what you wear, no. So she is saying that because she saw her as an onion seller, she looked like an onion seller. And so she assaulted her. Where is this coming from?
I'm grateful. Reverend, certainly the party didn't sanction this.
Of course, how could an MPP sanction, like I indicated from the beginning of our discussions, that on that particular day I happened also to be there at the headquarters, and I was very surprised that later on I heard that that incident had happened. It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate for that act to occur. I had interactions with Sechua, you know, we're talking and having interactions, and maybe I left it and that incident occurred. Yeah. And obviously, she wasn't dressed as like an onion seller.
Onion sellers dress?
This is politics, and so when some of these unfortunate incidents occur, fortunately for the other side, these are the opportunities for them to jump on, and I mean, it's their game.
I'm not saying she's an onion seller.
That's not what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying.
But I want to tell you, please allow her.
Listen to me. What I'm saying is that. From the beginning, this incident is unfortunate. And when some of these things are unfortunate, because of politics, that's an opportunity for the opposition to jump in. And that's exactly what they are doing.
Really?
But more seriously, you see, I am saddened. I am indeed saddened that we have various professionals who go about their duties. We have doctors, we have teachers, we have nurses, and though certain abuses are sometimes heard of these professionals, the attacks and abuses on journalists are becoming one too many. It's becoming one too many, and it is appearing that it's something has to be done about it to protect journalists, to protect the press. It cannot be defended in any way. Any attack on anybody that is lawfully undertaking their duty and their profession as service to Ghana. That, I mean, I cannot, defend just in the name of politics. That cannot be done. However,
if an individual attacks a journalist, why is it politics?
However, yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I cannot. Or you're suggesting that the opposition is using it, doing partisan politics.
No, but that is exactly what is being done. But that is granted. Okay. That is granted. I cannot fault them. I cannot fault them at all. Okay. But what I'm saying is that act is condemnable. Okay. That act cannot be defended.
So why is the party
that act cannot be defended? I mean, it is unfortunate for the lady. Like I spoke, she's a journalist at Multimedia, Adam FM, and she goes about her duties, I mean, professionally, and I do not think that it was provoked. And so, I'm expecting Hajia Fati to apologize. The initial attempts where some remorse was shown that, she wasn't even aware that she was a journalist. However, whoever that she probably had thought she was is a human being and deserves that respect and deserves that, dignity that should have been accorded Sechua, which unfortunately was not done. And that is my comment on this. It is unfortunate and it's condemned, and I mean, MPP has not in any way, defended this act. MPP has not in any way, tried to justify it. It cannot be justified in any way that you look at it. But going forward,
so should the DJ head to court?
DJ as a body that protects journalists is taking the rightful actions that will seek to offer them protection. That cannot be faulted. But this issue can easily be resolved. But going forward, we are expecting that journalists will be operating freely, and these attacks that are over the years have been meted out to them will be a thing of the past.
But are you not worried that 72 hours on, the party is yet to come out with any official statement about this?
It's the official statement to defend, to justify. I mean, and I'm saying, am I not a member of MPP?
No.
I'm not on this platform on a ticket of Intim Fodio. Yeah, I am on this ticket I am on this platform on a ticket of MPP, and I am telling you that this act cannot be justified. This act cannot be defended. It is an unfortunate incident, and so if a statement is expected. What is the statement expected to justify, defend? What else is the statement expected to do differently from what on all media platforms NPP representatives are putting out?
Okay.
So it is not an issue that has to be done.
Please allow him.
This issue must not be overly flogged. This issue must not be overly flogged. If any MPP member or stalwart had passed any comment at the defense of this, I would have been the first to dissociate from that. So let us be calm. It's unfortunate.
So party communicators are speaking on behalf of the party and condemning the act. Grateful.
So this issue cannot be overflogged.
That is not the case.
You want an official party
That is not the case. Okay. This is an issue that involves the party. So there should be an official statement from the party.
Okay.
Distancing themselves from this barbaric act, and then apologizing for what has taken place, and promising the good people of this country, especially media fraternity, that some of these things will never occur in their party headquarters. Because the place is becoming...
That's all
right. Please, I have moved on. I have moved on.
It's actually very unfortunate and unacceptable. Yes,
I have moved on.
Unacceptable. That journalists
let's quickly wrap up on
wherever it is, whether at the factory, whether at the police station, whether at the party office, wherever it is.
You are really making this
the party office must not be singled out and propaganda slants. This is an unfortunate incident. One professional law firm undertaking her
duty. Let's take a look at this one with you on this one, and then we go home. The statement has a story. Kwesi Botcho joins race. The statement says that it has information that Dr. Kwesi Botcho, former finance and economic planning minister, is expected to make a strong case for the 2020 presidential slot of the opposition party. Senior NDC cadres who support his bid and are putting pressure on him to step forward include some party regional chairmen and former MPs. They have confirmed reports that Dr. Botcho is warming up to contest as the flag bearer of the NDC at the right time. And they cite his economic prowess and credentials and a strong sectional appeal and unblemished track record as great assets for the party. Honorable Tetechai, the bell has not been sounded yet for the race, but we have a new phase. Professor Alabi, Mr. Courts, Yogabra, Sylvester Mensah, the former president, is being spoken about. Now, Dr. Kwesi Botcho, what does it add to the party's effort at rebuilding?
Right. It tells you that the NDC as a political party is becoming more attractive. More attractive in the sense that Ghanaians have now realized that the good things that we did when we were in power were the things that we need to do as a country to bring stability, to generate employment, and so on and so forth. So yes, there is that enthusiasm, there is that motivation, even at the grassroots level. I can tell you that for once in the reorganization of the party, we had a very successful party reorganization at the basic level, where initially some of the things that we thought would have happened in terms of people maybe refusing to pay dues and so on and so forth. To our surprise, people were even ready to pay more to ensure that the party was well reorganized at the basic level. And if you look at the level of competition in terms of people vying for positions at the branch level, it tells you, yes, we are poised to win 2020. And all what we need as a political party is a united front with all those who want to show themselves as good candidates for the party. For me, it is a welcoming news that Dr. Kwesi Botwe, who is also an icon when it comes to economics in this country, if he's also to introduce himself as a candidate a candidate in the upcoming elections. And I think for us as a party, it's a welcoming news to ginger the grassroots. Activity within the party will increase, and the level of confidence that Ghanaians are showing in the NDC will continue to grow. So we welcome all of them. At the appropriate time when nominations are open, we want to see all these vibrant, hard-working citizens of this country to file their nominations. And Bright, maybe I may also decide to join the race because things are becoming very, very interesting for the party.
I wish you all the best.
And people are really disappointed.
You'll be a fine candidate. You'll be a very fine candidate.
Dr. Kwesi Botwe joining the NDC.
I will pray and fast for you.
What will it add to the party's efforts at bringing its supporters together?
For democracy to keep consolidating in Ghana, it is important that the very principal political actors are strengthened and various structures that will ensure that their strength is solidified, is encouraged. And it's a step in the right direction to encourage, for me, to encourage that the cracks and challenges that may be in NDC is unified, and any challenges that they may be facing, which usually when you're in power, it is cohesive, but once you leave power, becomes very obvious and glaring. They take steps to ensure that, it's of interest to me as a citizen, a well-meaning Ghanaian, to ensure that all principal actors in our democratic space are actually doing well. It's important in their internal elections, various candidates who have the eligibility to apply come up to express their interest in expressing same. We wish NDC the best, and we are hoping that in the interest of promoting democracy in Ghana, they will be able to put a formidable front together and then face us in 2020. Of course, already, there are certain, skepticisms that have been expressed in their camp regarding the rate at which promises have been fulfilled. The economy is booming, and we've seen jobs, over 1 million jobs created. And these critical promises that have been fulfilled, although there are still few challenges that have to be resolved because of the state in which we saw the economy. There's that fear of they coming to power anytime soon, and for which issues like NAPCO is a big threat and a big blow to them. Issues of free SHS is a big blow and a big threat to them. But however, they will still have to put together a very formidable front to ensure that we have a democracy that is thriving, that is free and fair and transparent, and ensure that Ghana's democracy continues to be a beacon in the sub-region. So I wish NDC best, and I would, anytime that my good friend, Honorable Dr. Chai would raise his bid, I would pray for him and I would fast for him.
And give him all the support.
He'll be a fine candidate. However, I cannot guarantee his victory anytime the next 30 years.
Okay.
So long as on the ticket of NDC, I cannot guarantee that. Yeah.
I am grateful. Reverend Tim Fojo is a member of parliament for the Asin South constituency, a member of the NPP, Honorable Theophilus Eteta is a former member of parliament for the Ablekuma Central constituency, a member of the NDC. We're grateful you spent your 1 hour this morning with us. There is more coming up. Stay with us.
We're just still celebrating mothers as Mother's Day comes up. But let's also talk about the Student Loan Trust Fund and its Repayment Awareness Month. It was established in December 2005 to help make education accessible to many of us who were not able to fund ourselves whilst in school. But of course, after we've taken the loans, having to repay also becomes an issue. But maybe it's just because we don't understand what that loan is supposed to do in the first place. But to help us understand it more is the CEO of the Students Loan Trust Fund, in the person of Mr. Nana Kweku J. Yeboah. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome to TV3 Newday.
Thank you.
So let's start off by saying, because people seem to be confused as to whether the SNIT loan is the same as the Students Trust Loan Fund. Is it the same?
It's not the same.
Okay.
I think the confusion stems from the fact that this SNIT loan was taken over by the current, student loan.
Okay.
So the student loan, as is currently, is under Ministry of Education.
Right.
It's different from the SNIT loan.
Okay. But who qualifies to be accessible to the loan, and how do you even get the chance to get onto that payroll for this loan?
If you have to be in tertiary institution,
okay,
you have to be a Ghanaian, and the courses you are pursuing has to be accredited. Okay. You have to be in an accredited institution, pursuing an accredited program. You have to be a Ghanaian.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is it limited to only those who are in public tertiary institutions?
It's both public and private.
Okay. So it cuts across the whole of Ghana.
Yep.
It's not only in the capital cities also.
No, in the whole of Ghana, we have 119 institutions, both private and public,
right,
on our portfolio.
Okay. So after I've, accessed the loan, what are the repayment terms? How do I repay?
After you access the loan, let's say you are pursuing a 4-year program.
Right.
After you graduate from your program, you have first year for when you are doing your national service.
Okay.
You don't pay the loan. Then the second, so 2 years after graduation, then you start to repay.
Okay. But usually, I'm interested in finding out how much is even giving and what is the criteria for the amount you give. Because at the end of it, you rightly said you give the person 2 years. What if within the 2 years they're not making enough to repay the loans?
How much you are given? Here, I will have to thank the education president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. During the 2016 campaign, he promised that if voted into power, he was going to increase the loan amount. And he's done that. So beginning of this academic year, the loan, before then, the maximum was 2,000. Now the maximum has been increased to 3,000.
Okay.
So, yeah, the loan amount that you qualify for is $3,000 cedis.
It certainly won't be dollars.
Yeah, 3,000 cedis
okay.
maximum.
Right.
Okay, but we have means testing that we use to find out about your background, who you are, and so on and so forth, to determine. Okay. So let's say if 2 people apply for the loan, they might not necessarily get the same amount.
Right.
One can get about 3,000 cedis, and maybe the other will get about
1,500,
2,500, based on
their
the answers you gave for the means test.
Very well. But do you calculate any interest on these loans they take?
We have the lowest interest.
Okay.
As against the commercial loans is 12%.
But looking at, I'm just trying to juxtapose this with our current economic situations and the fact that how much people would usually receive when they're doing the national service. So with this interest rate, do you think it's easy for students who take this loan to repay within the 2 years?
Oh, it's not within the 2 years. I said that the repayment, you don't pay for the first 2 years after graduation.
Right.
Okay, then the 3rd year, that's when you start paying.
Okay.
So you don't have to pay the
so you're exempt within the first 2 years after graduating?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the 3rd year, the repayment kicks in at that point.
Right.
But the amount of money our students pay is something that you can use to buy credit with, to make a phone call, about 50 cedis. And so on and so forth.
Very well. So finally, how do you trace the borrowers and how do we, the public, help you in solving this whole repayment issue?
Tracing the borrowers, admittedly, has become a problem because we don't have national identification and the addressing systems and so on and so forth. So if a borrower changes address, their phone numbers, it becomes difficult to trace them. So we are doing data sharing, partnering with other agencies like DVLA, you know, Passport Office, and such agencies, so that we can easily trace borrowers. You know, though especially if you go to renew your driver's license, we can know your current, you know, address, and then try to reach out to more borrowers. We are also trying to, we are devising other strategies to even reach out to borrowers who have traveled outside, those overseas. They are willing to pay, but if you don't reach them, or if you don't give them the platform to pay, it becomes difficult. So we're working on all those.
Very well. So finally, the fund doesn't fund itself. It is sourced by other, you know, income revenues. And I'm just wondering, in the case where repayment has become a big issue, do we still have money to be able to sustain some of the students who want these loans?
The funding, our funding sources, by the act that set up, you know, the fund, we are to get up to 10% of all the inflows into Get Fund. We also get 1% of telecommunication tax, talk tax, and we also do our repayment to supplement. Yes, we are sustainable. We are solvent. But with the increase, as I indicated earlier, is putting pressure on the fund. But we're going to, actually we're talking to the necessary stakeholders to find means of making the fund more sustainable, solvent. Because going into the future, we need to brace ourselves for, let's say, the free SHS is going to impact the fund, 2020 and beyond. So we are being creative, thinking outside the box.
Well, in that creativity, there are some students who say, well, the fund is in arrears, or they are not receiving their funding on time, and because they need that money to pay school fees, it's come up with a lot of issues. What do you say to that?
We are also thinking outside the box as we trying to package you know, other products that could help students maybe pay their fees before, you know, the so we are looking, it shouldn't be one size fits all. We are looking at different packages to meet different needs. You know, so depending on the needs of the student, we packaging programs to suit them.
Very well. And on that note, I have been speaking to the CEO of the Student Loan Trust Fund in the person of Nana Kweku Eje Yeboah, and I hope that as he's speaking to us, those students who benefited from the loan will repay so that others coming up can benefit from that loan. On that note, we'll take a break. We'll be back here with more on Newday.
Our Mother's Day celebration coming up to you now. This weekend is for our mothers. We will celebrate the day on the 13th of May, but on the 14th at TV3, a very special thing will happen. In the run-up to that, we're putting together a very special promo with the hashtag MamiMo on all our social media platforms. Here you participate. Put up a picture of you and your mom, you know, from back in the day, and a recent photo of you and your mom, and you get a chance to win, you know, very special stuff from Davis Palace. You get a full spa treatment for you and your mom. You get dinner sessions as well. You may even get the chance to travel. So participate actively and celebrate your mother. It may not be your biological mother, but anybody who is a mother figure in your life, you have the right to celebrate. But in 15 months, 17 journalists have been attacked. That's the conversation making rounds now. And we're here about Ajia Fatih and my colleague from Adum FM. We're being joined this morning by Shamima Muslim. She's convener for the Alliance for Women in Media. She's a mother, of course. Happy Mother's Day in advance, Shamima.
I receive it.
Happy Mother's Day. You're one of the mothers that people look up to. So
oh, really?
A lot of young...
I'm still early on in the game.
I know, but a lot of young female journalists I look for. I mean, I go to do seminars at GIJ, and they tell me they appreciate you and they are inspired by what you do.
That's
so
very humbling.
Congratulations. That's your Mother's Day tag. Apart from your ninjas at home, it's okay. Shamima, welcome. It's been a few days after the World Press Freedom Day, and then we hear attack on journalists. Will it ever end?
Well, obviously, I mean, once societies continue to evolve, once new challenges come up, once politics and the collaboration between the media fraternity as well as governance institution continue to see some friction, we will never see a complete end to the era where journalists are attacked. In fact, it is really a sad commentary that right after Ghana has hosted the Press Freedom Day, instead of us discussing some of the themes contained in the Accra Declaration and beginning processes of seeing how we can pick up key lessons and reform our newsrooms and our engagements with stakeholders, we are having to have a conversation about the safety of journalists right here in Ghana. I think it's a very sad commentary, and we have not done this country proud at all by having this kind of conversation. If it's any, relief at all, let me just add that the safety of journalists is actually a global issue as we speak. It was one of the themes also that was addressed at the
devising
event.
self-protective strategies.
Exactly. I mean, as we speak in America, there is a consortium of press freedom associations that are on a fact-finding mission to establish the extent and nature of attacks on journalism. If you read the world trends in freedom of expression by UNESCO, which was one of the outcomes for this session.
Press Freedom Day.
Safety of journalists is one key area that they are looking at in terms of how do we prevent and promote actions of impunity against journalists that leads to death of those journalists, and also the digital safety of journalists. So it's sad that we are having this conversation.
Let's zero in now into Ghana. 17, 15 months. And we tout ourselves. I mean, on the West African front, we say we are the best. On the African index, we look good up there. But is that a reality on the ground?
Obviously, it's not the reality. I mean, depending on what kind of researcher you are, you can say that, oh, but how many, can we use 17 as representative of the numbers of media persons for us to say that because we have reported 17 incidents, then it means that Ghana is on a downward spiral. But, one is one too many. And if you're also a qualitative researcher, you would know that, of course, numbers don't matter because you're not trying to do deductive, but once there are examples of journalists who are being attacked because they are bringing news to the general public, we have, as a nation, to be seriously concerned, because no journalist has to lose life or limb because you're doing their work.
Absolutely. Let me place on record that we contacted the Ghana Police Services Director of Public Affairs, ACP David Oklu, to join this conversation, but they declined to join the conversation, said they won't speak on this particular matter. I know that each time there's an assault, it's actually the police that kickstarts the process of prosecution. So we're wondering why, but that's for your information. Shamima, let's talk about the IGF Fati and the Adum FM reporter. A few days before that, my colleague here, Godfrey Tanam, had been abused and assaulted at the court by an officer of the law. Fast forward, this is what we have. Joy FM's Latif
is still
was also
recovering.
Yes, he's still recovering. He has fracture, and so the examples are the Fia Pokwa. It's been there. So many of them. Where do we go from here? What do we need to do, stakeholders? Here's the police saying, we don't want to have this conversation at this point.
We have to force them to have a conversation, because I was going through the list of some safety toolkits for journalists from different parts of the world. And in some toolkits, you'll be told that if you are covering an event like a protest, which is bound to become violent, you should always make sure you're near a security officer. But in other jurisdictions, they actually, point out to you that, in fact, the security officers may become perpetrators of violence against you. Right? So, obviously, in our part of the world, in Ghana, we have seen situations where people on peaceful demonstrations or covering peaceful demonstrations like Latif Kids have rather received brutality on the hands of the security. Safety training is a core thing, obviously. And all media houses must begin as of today to invest. In fact, all journalists must begin as of today to insist on safety trainings by their media houses. That's number one. Prepare yourself. I mean, there's a clarion call that listen and learn. Learn from the experiences of those who have been victims of abuse, those who have not lived to tell their story. Learn from their stories and advise yourself, because no matter what we put in a toolkit, on the day of their reality, it will only be you who will be
make
there.
the decision.
So you would have to make the decision based on the environment you find yourself. And when you take the situation of Ghana, we are talking, most of the events that see some of these things happening are events happening around courts, events happening around demonstrations and protests, events happening around political party activities, you know, press conferences, congresses, what have you. Sometimes events happening around Independence Day and national events, because one of the victims, the 17 we are talking about, was attacked at the 60th Independence anniversary. So we need, as a journalism fraternity, to begin codifying some of these. You know, like the police have done. The police and security agencies have what they call hotspots.
Absolutely.
You know, so what are the hotspot events for us as journalists? The flashpoints that if a journalist was going to cover, you needed to take extra precaution. When we are going into election period, do we have any dedicated time training journalists on what to expect and how to deal with situations, how to troubleshoot potentially violent situation, because you always have to put your safety first.
Right.
Because if you don't leave, there's no story.
Talk about safety first. So Ajia Fati is said to have referenced and said that the lady in question looked like an onion seller. There's been the school of thought that some of our colleagues don't present themselves well to be able to earn the kind of respect that they deserve. That's debatable anyway.
Onion sellers don't even deserve to be slapped. And when you watch the video, the later video of Hajia Fati reiterating this same stance, I mean, her body language indicates someone who has absolutely no remorse. In fact, it ought not to be the Hajia Fatis of the NPP who have to organize to prevent members of the NPP from picking up forms.
Absolutely. There's an election committee.
There's an election. If they go to the office and he doesn't qualify, the officer in charge would be the person. So political parties, this is the impunity that we are talking about, which political actors seems to be, you know, watering every day by their quiets when we see some of these actions by members of their party in their premises. I mean, Sule Brahima had cause to say that the MPP should be careful because they're giving us an impression that especially their headquarters is becoming a hostile environment to journalists. And one attack is an attack on all of us. What are we willing to do as a fraternity?
Godfrey Tanam had been attacked there before.
Yes.
Not so long ago before
even some other 4 journalists were attacked at the same place, City FM, TV3, and what have you. So again, one of the concerns that were raised this year about the developments in media is media pluralism and independence of the media. How can we assert ourselves if we decided today that we're going to institute a no-news day to buttress our concerns?
Is it possible? Can we do it?
Why shouldn't it be possible? Why can we also not if companies can blacklist individuals, if security agencies can blacklist individuals, the media must be able to blacklist institutions that threaten the sanctity of journalists.
What place must the GJ take in all of this? We're here, the GJ is thinking of putting together legal experts to consider legal action. But remember the Shelley Ayoko Boche, you know, intervention in Akumia after the TV3 journalist was assaulted. We had a conversation and then it went dead.
And that's what always happens, right? And I was just telling you before we started this conversation that when attacks against journalists becomes normalized and accepted and expected by us journalists, the country is going to be in trouble for it.
What are we going to lose?
Because what it means is that we will not deal with other such situations against other citizens in the manner that is required of us to do. Because even us are victims of it. So what is your story? We normalize it. We will not give it the premium that it deserves, and that becomes a risk. I mean, everybody that does an event wants media coverage. So these institutions must recognize that we are not enemies. Right? We can have conversations on how we can have better relationships, but we are not enemies. And the last person we want to attack is the journalist, the gatekeeper, the one that will bring you the news, the one that will uncover the rots in the society. You don't want to begin to use covert and overt mechanisms to try and cower these individuals, and it's beginning to happen. Political parties believe that if they attack you, they put some kind of fear in you, and you recoil into your shell. We must protest this, and I think that the GJA has an opportunity today to be at the forefront of this revolution. We are saying no. We are saying that this is unacceptable, especially as a woman. Women are even more affected. You know, if you take some of these reports that I was referring to, there's still serious underrepresentation. 1 in 4 women are in media decision making. 1 in 3 women reporters. 1 in 5, you know, as sources for in interviews, experts for interviews. So we don't want to begin to do things that will further erode the little gains that we have made at all, especially when we come to online and offline. The issues of safety cuts across. Women are more, vulnerable to online attacks, even offline. Yesterday I was going through some profiles of some programs I did in the past, and some other female. The vitriol that is often meted out to women journalists when somebody feels offended by them, it's completely unacceptable. The slut shaming, the name calling, we can't allow this to continue. So my message is that we have to have a conversation as a media fraternity. If we need to blacklist certain institutions, we must do it.
NDC does it, MPP does it. We know how we have suffered in the past and how we... And to think that we're told that this was change and you're not getting the change. Where do we begin the conversation from? From whose doorstep? It's not as if the political parties do not know the place of journalists.
Perhaps it even excites them to see journalists being, you know, treated the way that they are treated. I mean, the party in government today is the NPP. And the NPP is a party that prides itself as a party of rule of law, freedom of expression. Our president has been severally heard speaking about how he prefers a boisterous media to a sycophantic one. We need to put words to meaning, right? And so it's really a slap in the face of the government that these things happen. And we haven't even heard anybody. We haven't heard the party speak about it.
Hajia Fati?
Well, perhaps the party is. I mean, in the same way that we spoke against the Delta force individuals and the invisible forces and the impunity that they exhibited, it's the same things that we have seen Hajia Fati do at the MPP headquarters. It's time for her to be reined in. Unless this is a reflection of the general thinking of the party in that party headquarters, unless she's doing something that they endorse. If you don't endorse it, then you need to come out quickly and let us understand that you don't endorse these kinds of attacks on journalists or even citizens, because no citizen deserves to be attacked for being at a place that they are supposed to be in the first place.
Thank you very much, Shamima Muslim.
She's
the convener for the Alliance of Women in Media, and she's been speaking extensively on attacks on journalists. And good morning to you, Ms. Al-Hassan. We'll be back after this break. But remember, the Mami Mo is on. The hashtag is thriving. If you haven't sent the photo yet, you're losing out. Where a team of experts are looking at the photos. It must be compelling, and you must add a message to it. You want to say Mother's Day to your mom?
My mother is Hajia Rahmat Muslim, and in fact, we can't pay her enough for what she's done. She had 9 of us.
Wow.
And my stepmom is Hajia Layata, also 3 of us. So my dad has 12 of us.
Wow.
And
that's a football team with a coach.
Those, to my mom, my stepmom, and to all the other women who have been mothers to me, I thank you all, Dr. Doris Dat, Boate, Professor Odrigajeko, Esther Koba. I mean, there's so many to mention.
Joyce Aye as well.
Joyce Aye. I mean, to all mothers, to the First Lady, the former First Ladies, Nana Kunedu, Odina Mahama, Teresa Kufuor. I mean, you've been mothers to this nation. We celebrate you and we hail you. And may God continue to increase you and give you the strength that you stay long and you will be happy.
I see, 12. That's a football team with a coach. We'll be back after this break.
Oh yes, sweet, sweet mothers. And of course, I think we should use this opportunity to also celebrate a few of the fathers who are actually playing mothers.
No.
What kind of situation is that?
Mother's Day.
Celebrate a few fathers?
We will wait for our time.
No, we'll celebrate fathers.
We'll wait for our time.
See, there's a tree proverb that says, Yamao, what is it? The linguist, if they give you
we don't like it.
That is what will happen to you. When we give you Father's Day, you make so much noise about it. When you decide to add a few of you to mothers to your crime, no problem. Mothers, all for you. If any man dares attempt to take this glory.
This year, we are also waiting patiently for Father's Day.
You see, that
we want to celebrate it like this.
Maybe in my house it was different because I think men are celebrated on the regular.
You are under-celebrating us. You are under-celebrating us.
So this will be a protest.
Send us your views. Let's know if you truly think men are under-celebrating.
I'm seeing,
in fact,
I'm seeing some photos.
I carry the views of all men. We are being under-celebrated.
Are you all men?
Yes.
You are Moisha in the case.
But I mean, a big love to all our mothers here, especially at Media in General. And surprisingly, or if you like, interestingly, you have key positions being held by women. We have Group CEO, Mrs. Pelisha Mensah herself, Linda Na, who is General Manager at MG, Bishop Zachiman, Matilda Haynes, Millicent Diamonds, Lois Kisiedu, Petra Samoa, Harriet Asunda, Babina Finwalker, Hanela Doctor.
But there are some of them, someone like Babina Finwalker, I don't know if we can celebrate her as a...
Of course you can.
We can.
You want to put her as a grandmother?
Oh, maybe.
As an ancestor.
So, Thelma Lai as well, Prudence.
Thelma too is there. No, Johnny, this one there, I'll go to court.
Over what?
Because of what?
What is your case?
Thelma, Asamoah Lai and Prudence Lai, they can't be.
You can't put them inside.
No.
So you take them.
Upon all the makeup they do for you, if it wasn't the mothering instinct, they'll be putting the powder on your bald.
They can.
What about Brenda Dugan?
Okay, Brenda.
You consider Brenda.
Why now? Committee of Mother Association.
But Amma, she's the chairperson for the committee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm the treasurer.
You like money.
Of course, who doesn't like money?
All right, kudos to all our women. Great stuff.
To all our mothers.
Anywhere you find a woman,
yes,
there is peace, there is cohesion, there is always...
and there's food.
There's
food and love.
So, you know, I love to be around women because...
We also love to have you around.
You're always
when
taking
you're on your good behavior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, guys, we'll see you same time tomorrow.
Okay,
of course, go out there and celebrate the mother.
I'm sure this will be a picture for the day. Somebody and her mother.
Her granny.
Yeah, I think maybe it could be mother.
No, she says, lovely granny, thank you. There's a comment under the
lovely
first
granny.
picture.
Okay, so that's the grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so that's lovely. You know the grandmothers, the way they pamper their grandchildren.
Oh, yes. But especially the male grandchildren, the grandsons. They give them all the chocolates.
So send us more pictures. I think that there are a few more pictures that we could share. Okay,
true.
So this one lost his mother. May she rest in peace. But
and he's looking up into the sky.
Yeah.
She's certainly praying and looking down to you.
Anyway.
And I'm sure she helps you succeed whatever you do.
Okay.
Keep sending your photos. We'll see you tomorrow. Be good. Be good, sweet mother.
Sweet mother.